What if I told you that the universe, in all its vastness, is offering you something incredibly powerful? Something you don't need to seek on long journeys or wait for luck or destiny to bring you. A gift that, although invisible, can alter your entire existence. A force that is already all around you, waiting only for the right moment to reveal itself. This is not an ordinary gift. It is not something that can be bought, achieved, or even desired in a traditional way. Instead, it is a subtle and silent power, rooted in the deepest part of your essence. And it is much closer than you think. Perhaps, in your search for it, you've overlooked the simplest and yet most impressive fact. It has always been within you. Have you ever felt that there is something, an energy, a sensation, that if you could access it, could change everything around you? What if this energy was not something to be found, but something to be recognized? Maybe you don't need to search any further. What awaits you will not be something grand and distant, but something small and yet infinite. Something that changes the perception of reality, dissolving the limitations of the mind and revealing the peace hidden deep within your being. Stay alert, because what you are about to discover is not just an idea or concept, but the key to a silent yet overwhelming transformation. This gift from the universe is closer than you think, and your first step is simpler than it seems. The idea of absolute control is a belief deeply rooted in our culture, a view that has been imposed on us since birth. Society teaches us that in order to achieve success, happiness, and fulfillment, we must master every aspect of our lives. However, this belief is a subtle trap that limits our freedom and our ability to live authentically. The obsession with control arises from fear of the unknown, of uncertainty, and most importantly, of loss. In our relentless pursuit of predictability, we try to shape every moment, every decision, with the hope that, in doing so, we'll ensure a future without surprises. But what we often fail to realize is that, by trying to control everything around us, we end up suffocating our ability to be free, to allow ourselves to experience life in its fullness. The truth is that absolute control is an illusion. Life, in its essence, is unpredictable. Trying to force every event and circumstance to follow a specific path is not only exhausting, but also futile. The future is, by definition, uncertain, and trying to imprison it in our expectations creates internal conflict. We are confronted with the paradox. The more we try to control, the more we lose real control over what matters: our inner peace, our spontaneous joy, our ability to adapt and grow. Control keeps us tied to the past and the future, while the true experience of life happens in the present, in the fleeting moment we are living right now. And by focusing so much on shaping what is to come, we fail to notice what is happening around us, what could teach us, transform us, and lead us to new discoveries. The obsession with control disconnects us from the flow of life and the wisdom of the present. Instead of control, what is offered to us is something more powerful: the freedom to let go. By learning to trust in the natural flow of life, rather than fighting against it, we become more connected to our true essence. Life, when freed from rigid expectations, surprises us in ways we could never have anticipated or controlled. And this surprise, this surrender to the unexpected, is what allows us to live fully and authentically. Suffering is a constant presence in the human experience, but we rarely recognize it as a wise teacher. We live in a society that avoids suffering at all costs, seeking instant relief in distractions and temporary comforts. Yet true transformation does not come from escaping suffering, but from consciously facing its existence. When we encounter pain, whether emotional, physical, or existential, the first reaction is to push it away, deny it, or often resist it with all our might. But this resistance creates a vicious cycle of additional suffering. The more we try to escape suffering, the stronger it becomes, turning into a shadow that follows us. Resistance only intensifies the pain, feeding our anxiety and perpetuating the illusion that we are out of control. The wisdom of Buddhism teaches us something profoundly revealing. Suffering, instead of being an obstacle, is an opportunity. Each moment of pain has the potential to lead us to a deeper understanding of life and ourselves. Suffering is not something to be feared or avoided, but something to be understood, embraced, and transformed. It is, paradoxically, the path to liberation. When we stop fighting suffering and allow it to be present, we are able to observe its origins and manifestations. By doing so, we can distinguish between real suffering, which is an inevitable part of life, and the additional suffering we create with our restless minds, full of judgments and expectations. Genuine suffering, when accepted without resistance, leads us to acceptance of what is, allowing us to release the chains of our own aversion to pain. Every pain we experience is an opportunity for growth. Suffering, when embraced with compassion and understanding, can transform us, expanding our capacity for empathy and strengthening our connection with others. Instead of seeking a life without pain, the true spiritual path invites us to transform our relationship with suffering, using it as a teacher that leads us to wisdom, patience, and true inner peace. Through suffering, we find the freedom that comes from accepting what is, surrendering to the flow of life and the constant renewal of our being. If this content is resonating with you, don't forget to like and share your opinion in the comments. And of course, subscribe to the channel to continue receiving more deep insights like this. Your interaction not only helps the channel grow, but also strengthens your own journey of self-awareness. Don't miss the chance to evolve alongside this community. We often live as if time is something fixed, something we can control, but the reality is much more fluid and unpredictable. Impermanence is one of the deepest truths of the universe, but also one of the hardest to accept. Everything that exists is in constant transformation. Our lives, our emotions, our thoughts, everything. Our happiest moments and our greatest challenges, as well as our greatest fears, are transient, like the waves that come and go along the ocean. We cling to ideas of stability and permanence because we believe that security lies in what does not change. However, the attempt to hold on to what is fleeting only traps us in an illusion, leading us to suffer. When we understand that everything is temporary, that nothing stays exactly as it is, we begin to realize that we cannot control events, but we can control our attitude toward them. The key to a full and serene life lies in accepting impermanence, not as something to fear, but as something natural and liberating. Instead of resisting change or obsessing over the past and future, we are invited to live in the present. Now is the only moment that truly exists, and in it rests all our freedom. The mind, however, often flees this moment, jumping to future worries or past reproaches, distancing us from the true and living experience. Buddhist practice teaches us that, by embracing impermanence, we can experience the peace of simply being. The understanding that everything is in flux frees us from the chains of desire and attachment, as we realize that trying to keep things as they are, or seeking refuge in a future that has not yet arrived, is a source of dissatisfaction. When we accept that the present moment is all we have, we begin to live with more gratitude and attention, seeing the beauty in the transience of life. This understanding does not deny the importance of planning or reflecting, but it teaches us not to stay trapped in a future mental state. It challenges us to learn to live more authentically and consciously, appreciating each moment as it is, without expecting it to stay, without desiring it to change. True peace comes from accepting impermanence, as it allows us to be fully present, without anxiety, without the pressure that something needs to be different. Now is the only time when we are truly free. Our mind, with its unparalleled capacity to imagine, create, and organize, also becomes fertile ground for illusions. It gives us an illusion of control, a false sense that we know exactly what is happening and what should happen. However, often, this very mind traps us in mazes of suffering by creating stories and scenarios that do not exist, but seem so real that they shape our perception of life. Suffering is not, in essence, in the external circumstances, but in the interpretations we give to them. The mind creates a filter through which we see the world, distorting reality according to our beliefs, desires, and fears. We cling to fixed ideas about what is right or wrong, good or bad, and these ideas imprison us, creating a separation between what is and what we imagine it should be. The path to true freedom, to a clear and serene mind, comes through a deep understanding of the nature of the mind. When we begin to observe our thoughts with careful attention, without judging them or identifying with them, we realize that the mind is not something solid or unchanging. It is fluid, full of contradictions, and often driven by conditioned patterns. This understanding allows us to separate who we truly are from the illusions the mind creates. We are not the thoughts that arise, but the awareness that observes those thoughts. Meditation practice is a powerful path to achieving this mental clarity. By stopping and just observing, without attachment or resistance, the mind begins to quiet down and reveal its own fallacies. Instead of fighting against thoughts, we learn to let them come and go, like clouds in the sky. This practice of detachment allows us to see what lies beyond the distortions of the mind, the pure and formless space of consciousness. As we progress on this path of understanding, we begin to realize that suffering does not come from what happens, but from how we react to what happens. By freeing ourselves from mental illusions, we become more present, more at peace with impermanence, and more connected with reality as it is, without the need to mold or control it. True freedom is not found in a world without challenges, but in the ability to live with them, with a mind free of illusions, without attachment to what was or what will be. Detachment, often misunderstood as renunciation or indifference, is, in fact, one of the most powerful paths to spiritual freedom. Attachment, on the other hand, creates an invisible web of conditioning, limitations, and expectations that keeps us trapped in a cycle of suffering. What prevents us from achieving true peace is not the world itself, but our relationship with it, our fixed ideas, our emotional possessions, our insatiable desires. Detachment does not mean distancing ourselves from things, but rather freeing ourselves from the need to possess or control them. Each desire, each belief, and each expectation we create is like an invisible chain that prevents us from living fully. When we cling, whether to objects, people, or even a sense of identity, we become prisoners of those things. Our sense of self begins to depend on them, and thus, suffering inevitably arises when we lose them, or when we cannot attain them. The practice of detachment invites us to question our attachments, to observe the moments when we feel deprived of peace, frustrated, or anxious, and investigate where that feeling comes from. When you begin to notice attachment, you can see how it fuels an endless cycle of unfulfilled desires and expectations that are never fully satisfied. Detachment is then the recognition that happiness is not found in things or external circumstances, but within ourselves. One of the most effective ways to cultivate detachment is through meditation and mindfulness, where we observe, without judgment, everything that arises in the mind and body. The goal is not to push away thoughts or desires, but merely to recognize them as part of the natural flow of human experience. By doing so, we gain a clearer perspective on what really matters and what can be left behind. By practicing detachment, we are not denying the value of things, but we learn to enjoy them without losing ourselves in them. This allows us to be freer, more present, and more at peace. When we free ourselves from attachment, we not only let go of material things, but also of old emotional patterns, past memories, and projections about the future. This connects us with the truth of the present moment, where life happens, without chains, without fears, and without self-imposed limitations. Detachment, then, is not an escape, but a return to the essence of being. It is the ability to live fully, without the chains of desire, without the need to define or control what happens to us. By letting go, we become lighter, more open, and more willing to embrace life as it is, with all its beauty and impermanence. In the end, the true journey is not about reaching a fixed destination, but about constantly transforming, with each step, with each breath. The path of self-knowledge is infinite, and each moment reveals a new opportunity to explore, learn, and grow. With every discovery about ourselves, a new layer of reality unfolds, bringing with it a clearer vision and a deeper connection with what we are and what we can become. The key to this journey lies in our ability to let go of control, to accept the impermanence of life, and to allow experiences to flow without resistance. By cultivating detachment, compassion, and mindfulness, we become more than passive observers. We become active participants in our own transformation, allowing each challenge to be an opportunity for evolution, and each difficulty a chance for inner development. What we seek, deep down, is a state of peace that transcends the highs and lows of everyday life, a state in which we are no longer defined by external circumstances, but by a profound connection with our essence, with the inner wisdom that resides in each of us. This is true awakening, not to find something outside of us, but to realize what has always been present, waiting to be recognized. This journey is eternal, and each of us, in our own way, follows our own pace. However, we all share the same fundamental truth. Peace is not something to be achieved, but something to be recognized, experienced, and become. When we embrace this vision with humility and courage, we begin to see life not as a series of events to face, but as a fluid dance of constant transformation. So keep going. The path is always open, and the present is the only moment that truly matters. With each step, you come closer to the peace that has always been yours, to the freedom that has always been within reach, and to the self-knowledge that is the key to unlocking true wisdom. The journey continues, without end, and you are exactly where you need to be. If you've made it this far, know that you're taking an important step on your journey. Apply what I've shared today and allow yourself to live with more clarity and purpose. Don't forget to like the video, leave your comment, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next content that will further enrich your transformation. Until next time, and may peace and wisdom be with you.